Hey YouTube, welcome back to Finding Truth, the channel where we're looking for information about all kinds of stuff, trying to find out what the truth is. And so far we've been focused just on cameras, but we might move into other topics in the future. Be forewarned. So the question today is, how many megapixels do I need to be able to get the shot and the images that I'm looking for, as well as print size that I'm looking for? So we're going to discuss that a little bit. I've had some questions on some of my videos about this and whether or not the X-T1 from Fujifilm produces enough megapixels at 16 megapixels to be able to get the images that we're looking for, as well as print them at the size that we want in 2019. Is that possible? And I'll just spoil alert, yes, it's very possible. So when you start talking about megapixels, in my opinion, for a long time, it's been more of a marketing device than an image quality device. And let me explain what I'm talking about. Let's see, the first question that you got to ask yourself when you're looking at megapixels is, how big of an image am I going to print? And how much am I going to crop that image? If you're a photographer that tends to use your images as they are out of camera, not doing a whole lot of cropping, just maybe some editing in Final Cut or in well, okay, maybe a little bit of editing in Photoshop, trying to get your image to look as good as possible, and then you're printing it out, say, I don't know, maybe up to 13 by 19. You're definitely not going to have any issues. So let's take the extreme of this, and let's say you want to print out billboards. How many megapixels do you need to print billboard size? Well, it's a pretty simple answer. You need about 2 megapixels to print a billboard. And part of that is because of the distance that people are viewing the images at. The pixels on a billboard are huge. They're enormous circles of color. If you've ever been up close to a billboard and taken a look at it, it's surprising how pixelated those images are and how big those pixels are. But that's because you're looking at it from 200-300 yards away or 100 yards away. So that's the other thing that you have to factor in, not only the size that you're printing, but the distance that it's intended to be viewed at. So 2 megapixel billboards look wonderful when you're driving by on the freeway, just as a 16 megapixel 13 by 19 is going to look beautiful from 6 inches away. It's going to be very hard to see those megapixels. You're going to have to get right up onto it to see the actual pixels of color. So how do I know that this is factual? How do I know that this is really true? Well, I'll tell you, one of my cameras that I used to own that I absolutely loved, it's one of the fastest cameras I ever owned, is and by fastest I mean shutter speed, not necessarily the ISO. Normally when we're talking about speed with cameras, we're talking about ISO and f-stop. But the shutter speed of the camera was 10 frames per second. It was just a blazing fast camera, and it's the Nikon D2H, or D2H. They also made a D2HS, which was a little bit better, but it had the same 4.6 megapixels. So let's get an idea of what that is. The Nikon D2H, here's some images of it. It's a professional body camera. It was made for sports photography, as you can see from this image here with the hockey player. These are just some beautiful images that you can get out of it. They produce a real nice grain quality that is actually the pixels, but it comes across as grain. So let's take a close look at some of these images. So right here we have one. This is a baboon. You're getting some beautiful color out of it. It doesn't quite have the same beautiful color science that you're getting out of the newer cameras, but it's a pretty darn nice looking image. Now this one starts to show a little bit of pixelation when you get into the dark areas of the image. And that's kind of the downside of the older bodies, is they don't really have as much dynamic range. So that's another issue, is that the newer cameras, you are getting more dynamic range, so you're able to pull more out of those dark areas to get more image without it pixelating. But this is an image that would print out real nicely in an 8 by 10, something like that. And it would be a beautiful image. Nobody would really complain about it. But lighting is the issue for these older cameras. They need to have good lighting to really get the image. So let's take a look at some of these other images. Like this. This is 4 megapixels, 4.6 megapixels. And it's gorgeous. Now, there is a little bit of pixelation that you can see in it, but it just comes across as old school film grain, and it looks wonderful. You know, looking at these images makes me want to pick up an old D2H or D2H again. I kind of miss that camera. It was a very nice camera to use. Now, it was a crop sensor. The D2 series were crop sensors. D3 was the first full frame. So for a crop sensor, they really pulled out some nice images, but it's one of the reasons why I wanted to go to this camera to talk about megapixels is because the images that it does pull out are beautiful from a crop sensor with 4.6 megapixels. So if this image doesn't kind of wake you up to the idea that maybe megapixels aren't exactly as important as we think they are, take a closer look at this, or go pull up some D2H images for yourself and take a close look, because this thing would print out 13 by 19 and you could look at it from a foot away without really seeing anything but what looks like natural film grain. So it is a wonderful image. Now let's take a look at a couple of more. Now here we have a really nice portrait. Now once again, D2H. It's really nice black and white portrait, and the details that we're getting in this image are absolutely beautiful. The eyeballs, the reflection in the eyeballs, the moisture, the skin pores that are showing. I mean, this is truly a beautiful image, one that would print out 13 by 19 without any issues whatsoever. As we go through these, you will see how important lighting is, though. So let's pull up the next one. Now, Formula One race car, these things are moving very quickly. And this camera was designed specifically for this type of event. Catching a moving object with tracking focus and with good lighting, of course, but with high-speed shots so that you catch that image. This is a great example of that. Once again, 4.6 megapixels. Here we go. We got this beautiful peacock, gorgeous image. And it's just, I can't find a fault in it. It makes it really hard to argue for a 50 megapixel camera, something that's over 10 times as many megapixels. So let's go take a look at this. You know, we've got this nice desert scene. Now, normally, when you got such a lack of megapixels compared to what we're used to, you would expect something like a landscape image to completely fall apart. And once we get back into this background area, it kind of does. The detail is kind of lacking. It makes you kind of want to squint your eyes and try to see that image a little bit better. But just the fact that even down in here we can see these people on this walkway, we know that those are people down in there. Being able to pull that kind of detail is pretty surprising. You'd expect each one of those people to be about 2 pixels, and that's about it. But the detail's there. Looking at the bird, you can see the individual feathers on the bird to an extent. Not quite as detailed as you might expect from some of the newer cameras, but pretty darn good overall. So let's see. Now this is what I'm talking about when, you know, focus is extremely important when you're dealing with any camera whatsoever, but especially with low level of megapixels. You got to nail that focus, otherwise it does just kind of fall apart on you, and this image, in my opinion, kind of falls apart. It had a potential to be an absolutely beautiful image with this water just spraying up in the air, but they're just, either the focus is completely missed, and I'm not quite sure where the focus is on this. It might not even be in the image. It might be clear down here in the foreground. It's kind of what it seems like to me. But had that focus been nailed, I'll bet you this would have been an absolutely wonderful image. So let's look at the specs on this. Like I said, it's a 4 megapixel. It's actually 4.6, but they rate it as a 4 megapixel. It's an APS-C, so it is a crop sensor with a 2.5-inch screen. This camera was released in July 22nd of 2003. So we're looking at a camera that is 16 years old. To have it hold up the way that it does in the images that I've been showing you is really, really surprising, really quite impressive. So the point of going through all this stuff for you guys is just to be able to say that, you know, if you're worried about something being 16 megapixels not being enough for you, I think you'd find out really quickly that that's a misnomer, that it's just not factual, that you can pull wonderful images, extremely well detailed images with 16 megapixels, and that happens to be what the X-T1 has. Now, real quick, I did want to go through and read you guys one of the responses that I got on my YouTube that I think is actually pretty important for. It's a better comparison of camera than I can make because I don't own an X-T2. So when I pull this up, it says I have both. I'm sorry, this is. I'm gonna just butcher your name, so you guys can read that name for yourself. I'm sorry, Laszlo, but I have no idea how to say your last name. I really appreciate the comment, though. But what he says, I have both the X-T3 and the X-T1. I use more my X-T1 than the X-T3. X-T3 is excellent gear, but besides better autofocus system, the image quality is the same as the X-T1. Now we all know that the X-T3 pulls 26 megapixel and the X-T1 pulls 16. But in his eye, he's seeing the exact same image quality from both cameras. So that just tells you you really are going to have to be doing some serious pixel peeping to notice any kind of difference in the image quality. Now, if you're shooting video with them, yes, the X-T3 is a much better video camera by all accounts. So if you're just shooting pictures, you can save yourself a ton of money and put it all into lenses by picking up the older X-T1. And it is still, in my opinion, a absolutely phenomenal camera. It's all I'm using right now. I've been using it now for over about 2.5 months. And I am absolutely 100% in love with it. I will give you guys a 3-month update here coming soon. But I'm absolutely in love with the image quality that I'm getting out of it. I'm in love with the video that I'm getting out of it. Now, I'm not shooting the video on it today. I'm just using my webcam. And the reason why I'm doing that is because I did pick up one of the new iMacs, the 27-inch iMacs, in order to edit my videos. And you guys know me, I like to do everything on the cheap, so that might be a question for you too. Why did you pick up the 27 versus the 21.5? Well, I actually bought the 21.5 first, brought it home, thought about upgrading the RAM because 8 megabytes is just not enough to run, or 8 gigabytes is just not enough to run Photoshop and Lightroom at the same time. They really struggle with 8 megabytes or 8 gigabytes. So I started looking at the upgrade cost of upgrading to 16 gigabytes of RAM, and with the 21.5 it would be about a $500 upgrade to have somebody do that for me, and you can't, it's not user accessible, so you have to pull the screen off, and I didn't want to mess with that and void the warranty of a brand new computer. So instead I found the 27-inch on sale for $300 more than the 21.5 inch. Went ahead and picked up the 27-inch, which has a user upgradable RAM in the back, and I upgraded it to 16 megabytes of RAM with some RAM that I had that was extra. So it didn't cost me anything extra to upgrade it because I did already have the RAM. But let's say that you don't, you could put 32 gigabytes of RAM into it for $250 just by buying a 32 gigabyte RAM kit. So you can save a ton of money by going with the better computer, the better processor, the better graphics card, and putting the RAM in yourself, which is why I did that. Now, so I'm using my Logitech webcam on this, and I'm using OBS to record this. One of the issues that I had was that Macintoshes and OBS do not automatically give you the system sound. So, like if I'm playing a video on the screen that you guys are seeing, I wasn't able to get sound to it, and that's one of the reasons why I haven't put up a video in about a week and a half, is because I've been trying to figure out how to do that. And it was a little bit complicated, although it was simple in the end. But I do have it all figured out now, so I can show you guys videos on the screen and then comment on them, and you'll be able to hear my comments over the video. So I'm excited about making some videos coming up here shortly. We should have quite a few more videos. Let's see, another comment that we had right after Laszlo was this Dominic Smith, and Dominic said if you're a photographer or a photographer, then the Fuji X-T1 will do everything you need. It will need of it to give you exceptional quality photographs. Unless you have maxed out all of the options on this camera, then there's no need to keep chasing the latest tech. I agree. Most of us will print nothing larger than 20 by 16, even if we sell pics to magazines, etc. Nothing will ever be printed at a higher resolution than this. Any camera from 4 megapixels upwards is more than capable of producing excellent quality prints. Exactly what I'm saying. Well done, Dominic. You know your megapixel science. Says, yes, there are some low light dynamic range autofocus capabilities to consider, but for general photography, this is an excellent camera. Video quality is not exceptional, but don't buy it if you want this. Go for the Panasonic instead. I personally am not familiar with the Panasonic, so I can't corroborate what he's saying there, but I've heard very similar things. This is back to basics photographer's camera, which I have been using for 4 years and have not even breached the surface of its capabilities. It syncs to your phone with its built-in Wi-Fi capabilities, and you can control it from the phone using the Fuji app. I used to chase the tech. Now I'm old enough to start chasing the image, which is what photography should be about. I feel like I'm in the same spot as you, Dominic. We're probably a little bit kindred when it comes to video and photography. You know, I do like to shoot video. It's not my most important aspect. I like to use it for this channel. But it's not why I bought the camera. I bought the camera because it is a back to basics camera. As he said, it's a photographer's camera. It's got the exposure triangle in an area where it's very easy to deal with. It's very easy to see, and it's what you want if you are a photographer, especially if you are an old school photographer that actually messed around with film. This is going to give you that feel and use back that you're used to. So right on, just so you guys know, his website is www.bridalimage.co.uk. So if you want to check out some of his images that have been shot with the X-T1, which he's been using for 4 years now. In fact, let's just go to his site. I haven't checked it out yet. I have no idea what we're going to find here. Hopefully nothing disturbing. But yeah, okay, so apparently, you know, this image must have been shot on an X-T1. This one must have also. You know, these are very nice looking images. Not really, there's nothing there that you're looking at and saying, well, if it only had more megapixels. It's just not there. These are beautiful images. Hey, well done, man. Well done. Yeah, so I'd suggest, you know, you guys go check out his images, see what he's doing with the camera. That's pretty exciting if you ask me. So I think the point of the video tonight is just don't get hung up on megapixels. In fact, let me explain one more thing to you. Let's say that you have 2 full frame cameras, and one of them is 50 megapixels and one of them is 25 megapixels. We know that because they're full frame, the chip is the same size. So, what changes in size? The photo sites, the areas of the chip that actually allow the light to come into the image processor so that it can make an image out of the light that it's receiving. The larger photo sites should technically be more capable of pulling in light. There's a reason why the D5 by Nikon is a 20 megapixel camera instead of a 50 or a 40 or a 36, or it's not the high number of megapixels that you might expect for their flagship camera, which it is. I mean, they also have the D850, which is a 50 megapixel camera, but that's their flagship landscape, wedding, portraiture. The D5 is their flagship sports and news photography. So it's made to catch images as fast as possible in any light condition, where the other one is made to capture the best quality image in the best quality light settings. So the larger those photo sites, the more light you can pull in. Now, when you go back and look at older technology, sure, the D2H isn't going to pull in more light than the photo sites on a D5, but that's because it's 16-year-old technology, so it's just not capable of it. It's still going to pull in some wonderful images. I used to shoot my D2H in a pitch black bar, shooting concert photography. In fact, I have a wonderful image of Lemmy in my back room that's printed out that I should probably take a picture of and show to you guys. I don't think I have the original file for it anymore, but it printed wonderful. And if you know who Lemmy is, the bassist for Motorhead, lead singer for Motorhead, he was one of the people that I really enjoyed watching play live. And I had a wonderful experience where I was allowed to shoot his performance with a band called the Head Cat. If you've never checked out Head Cat, it's really cool. It's all the members of Stray Cats except for the lead singer, which I think his name is Brian Setzer. I think that's who was the lead singer of Stray Cats. But all the other members, the guitarist and the drummer, playing with Lemmy singing and playing bass old Stray Cats songs. So it's actually really cool if you can imagine Lemmy's voice with the Stray Cats. But that being said, just don't get hung up on the megapixels. It's really not that big a deal. As long as you have a good quality camera, something that's, say, 10 megapixels or higher with a newer chip in it, something in the last 5 to 6 years, you're going to get some wonderful images. Now, of course, there are some dud cameras out there, so make sure you do your research. If you want to be safe, buy yourself an X-T1, and you will have one of the best cameras on the market at any price, in my opinion. Especially at the price you can get it for. So you're looking at a camera that you can pay $350 to $400 for a body, where the modern day version of it is around $1,500 to $1,600 for a body. So it's a huge savings, four times the money savings. And as I always say, put that money into glass, because glass is what's really going to give you the image. You can have the best chip in the world, and if you've got crappy glass, you're just going to have a crappy image. It's just the way things work. So I hope this video was helpful for you guys that are really trying to figure out how to do this and how to get good images. Let me remind you real quick to go ahead and subscribe if you like what you're hearing. Click that like button. There's nothing that helps me out more than a like button, because the more likes I get, the more it shows my video to other people that are looking for similar things. So please, please, please hit that like button. I'll tell you guys what, I'm going to give you an unreasonable request. I'd like to see 500 likes on this video. That sounds crazy. I think the most I've ever had is like 50. But if we can get to 500 likes, I will personally go out and buy a excellent condition used Nikon D2H, and I will make a video specifically to give that camera to one of my subscribers. So make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you hit the like button. I'll even throw in a manual Nikon 1.8 lens that I have. One of their old school lenses that is tack sharp. It's a manual lens. It's what I used to use on my D2H, and I loved it. I'm sorry, it's not a 1.8, it's a 2.8, so don't don't hold me to that 1.8. It's a 2.8. But it's a wonderful, wonderful lens. That combination you'd be super, super happy with. So hit that like button. Let's get it up to 500. Let's see what we can do. Hopefully we can reach 250 subscribers here soon. That's kind of my next goal, and we will do another giveaway when we get to that point. So make sure that you click that subscribe button. But thank you guys for watching. We're at 25 minutes. I went way over time. I'll probably cut it down a little bit, so it probably won't actually be 25. But hopefully you guys got this far in the video, and keep watching. Keep clicking on the channel and check to see if we got new videos. Hit that notification button so you know when I put new videos up. And thanks again for checking out the channel. Remember, Fujifilm X-T1 is the camera for 2019 if you want to get the best image quality for the least amount of money. I don't think you can beat it. All right, have a good night, guys.